What do you want to do when you grow up? Now, I feel like there's been lots of talks given on that topic more of later times. I did actually give a talk on a couple of years ago to that very point, and the question we'd asked our son, or my stepson, who was 14 at the time, and literally said, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And he said, "Are you doing what you want to be doing when you grow up?" So it was really interesting to have the question thrown back at us because at the time we weren't doing, and definitely wasn't doing what I wanted to do when I grew up. And it was quite a point in time where it actually got us thinking about what it is that we should be doing, or what is it that we're actually showing our kids that we should be doing, because we're trying to encourage them to do things, push themselves outside of their comfort zones and whatever, yet we're not doing it ourselves, then, what's the example that we're setting for them and trying to, what's the journey we're trying to lead them on or inspire them to try and achieve. So a really good moment. And often, when we think about it, often as adults, we struggle with certain activities and everyday activities. You ever come to a door that doesn't have a push or a pull sign on it, and you generally do the opposite? Sometimes it even has a push or a pull sign on it, and you still do the opposite. So it's kind of ironic that we're often the ones asking our kids about what they want to be doing when they grow up. But I want to take it a step further and just ask about, what would you do if you couldn't fail? And then also, what would you do if you weren't afraid? Now, I asked that. I was listening to a podcast. I've been getting into one called Everyday Better by Leah Smart. Terrific podcast. And again, you can take or leave different ones that you listen to. But it was a really good podcast on that very topic, and it was talking about second act and what do people want to do for the back end of their careers. And it was asking those questions. What would you do if you couldn't fail? What would you do if you weren't afraid? All lovely. Doesn't mean we don't have all of those fears. And I'll talk again about life design and what we take clients through. Everybody's got those fears. Everybody's got their own challenges. But it's about thinking beyond them, because we often look at a problem the wrong way. We don't necessarily look at it with the correct solution in mind, and it's often the way that we ask for the solution to a particular problem that will give us a very different answer versus just banging our head against a brick wall because we keep coming up with the same answer. So life design, we definitely help people understand that. We definitely take you through and give you multiple ideas on what could happen, rather than just thinking it's either A or B. It could be A, B, C, D, E, F, or G. I'll keep going through the alphabet. So I guess the idea is that don't just put the blockers up and think it's not possible. Let's have a look at what is possible, and it might be a variation of what it is that you want to be doing, but let's look at that. And so going back to the podcast, that was then talking about having an exit plan and putting a date on it. So often we see people online and we think that things happen immediately. Often they've taken a hell of a lot longer than we think, or it looks like it's potentially taken. And unfortunately, it's often a lot longer than what we wanted to take. But have an exit plan, put a strategy in place for what it is that you potentially could be doing next. And then put a date on it as well. So put a date that you want to actually have achieved a certain thing, or maybe it's even the first step of whatever it is. It might be doing some research into whatever it might be that you want to be doing. For me, in my previous or my last full-time role, I had a date, and the date was that I had to apply for my job again, and that was this decision then that I didn't want to reapply for my job. I actually wanted to go out on my own full-time doing what I get to be doing now. So that's not going to be the same for everybody, but in my mind, that was the date that was quite pivotal for me. Do I apply for it? Do I not apply for it? I didn't apply for it. I went out on my own. So what's the date for you? Put a date on it, then stick to it, but also don't bite off more than you can potentially chew. So don't eat the whole apple. Take your first bite of the apple, and then see where that first step will take you. Hopefully you found this helpful. Bye.